All right, folks, today we are comparing two very good but underutilized fire techniques. That's the Dakota Fire Hole and the Swedish Torch. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each one of these techniques, and then we're going to do a little test and see how long each technique takes to boil 24 ounces of water. So there's a couple of key benefits to the Dakota Fire Hole. Number one is it's incredibly efficient. When you put wood in that hole and start the fire, all of that heat goes up and hits the bottom of that pot. And if you've dug the hole the same size as the pot, you're really not losing much heat to the outside. So when you're building one of these Dakota Fire Holes, how you construct it really isn't that important. The important part is that you have a hole for your fire and then some way to vent that to the bottom of that fire pit. The easiest method that I've found to construct the vent hole for this Dakota Fire Hole is just to dig down a little ways and then use some sort of stake or stick to drive or punch a hole the rest of the way. All right, got some good firewood processed. I'm gonna go grab some fat wood and get this thing started. So I've got a fat wood stump here. This is an old ponderosa pine. You can see, I've been collecting fat wood off of this, but you can see that amber color. That's all resin. Super flammable. All right, so I've got my Dakota Fire Hole dug here. I've got my main hole, which is gonna be for the fire, where I'm gonna be doing all the cooking. And then over here to the left, my left, I've got my vent hole, which is connecting to the bottom of the fire pit. What this is gonna do is feed oxygen to the bottom of this thing. If I didn't have this vent hole and just tried to dig a pit and build a fire in there, the fire is going to burn up all the oxygen in the pit, and then it's going to try to start drawing air from the top down while that heat from the fire is pushing air up, and it just doesn't work very good. And so having a vent like this to constantly feed air to the bottom of this fire makes for a very hot burning fire, and the hole directs all of that heat up to the cook pot. Now I've dug my hole deep enough so that the wood that I'm going to be burning is going to fit basically right in there, and it's going to be about the same depth as this wood. So I've got my little Dutch oven here, and I dug the hole right about the same size as the pot. Now of course we're not going to want to set the pot right in there because that's going to shut off all the airflow. The reason that I dug my hole the same size as the pot is because I don't want to lose a bunch of that heat to the outside. And so what I've done is just cut a couple of green aspen logs. I'm gonna set those up there, set my pot on that. That's gonna allow me to get some airflow, keep the pot up, and then these green logs will withstand that heat and not burn up. So I'm going to go ahead and load up my fire hole, and then we'll light this sucker on fire. This fat wood's just going to help get things going. All right, so we've got our fire lit. Once it gets going good, I'll put my green logs up there, put my pot on there, start the timer, and see how long it takes. All right. And start. So I'm just going to let this go until I can see steam coming out of that lid, and I know that it's at a rolling boil. It shouldn't take very long. All right, that's it. 3:50, 3 minutes 50 seconds. And I can see steam escaping from around the lid. So these Swedish torches are very easy and quick to construct, and they tend to be pretty efficient in the amount of time that it takes to boil water and the amount of fuel that it uses. Okay, so we've got our logs split into quarters. I'm going to go ahead and take the center out of these things, give our fire a place to burn. Remember which way these things went together. Ah. The key to making one of these Swedish torches work is to have enough of an air gap at the bottom in these cracks so that you do get some airflow in there to the fire. So I'm just going to take some of these pieces that I cut out of the center there and split some kindling out of them and drop that down in the center. Help get things going. All right, so once this thing gets rocking, I'm gonna go ahead and put my pot up there and we'll start the timer, see how long it takes. There's several different ways to make these Swedish torches. You may have seen where folks will auger a hole down through the middle of the log and then one through the side. That's a good way, but you need an auger and it's really quite a bit of work and it takes a while. This, in my experience, is gonna be the easiest, quickest way to build one of these Swedish torches. And as you can see, it works very, very well. So I'm just gonna saw 3 little wafers here to use to keep my pot up off of those logs. I don't have any stones, or I could use stones. we go. 5 minutes, 5 seconds. So, one of the great things about this fire I can use it again. You can take the fire apart, the fire goes out, and then when you get ready to boil water again, all you gotta do is put the thing together again, relight it, and you can get 2 boils at least out of one of these torches. Smoke bath. Open that thing up a little bit if it's not wanting to burn. So as far as efficiency when it comes to fuel consumption, I'm gonna have to say the Swedish Torch is far more efficient simply because it's a multi-use thing. I can boil the water, I can take it apart, the fire goes out, I've burned very little fuel, put it back together, reuse it, and if you had a big log, you could do that 3-4 times. Again, this isn't gonna be a fire that you're gonna wanna build for warmth, but just for boiling water or cooking, these things really, really are nice. I'm just gonna let this thing burn for a while, see what it does. Some of the potential downsides to the Dakota fire hole is, one, it is a little bit of work to construct. You need some sort of digging tool. You need to be able to dig, so you need to have the right type of soil. The other thing is, if you're using this technique for heat, it's really not going to work that well because all of that heat is directed straight up and you don't get that radiant heat from the outside like you do with a normal campfire. And so for boiling water, for cooking, for concealment, the Dakota fire hole is great. For just general heat and warmth, not so good. When you're done with the hole, all you've got to do to put the fire out is just rake the dirt back in, spread things out. If you want to make it look like you've never been there, just take a few leaves, pine straw, and scatter it out over the area, and it's basically like you were never there. All right, so as we can see, the Dakota fire hole was the clear winner when it comes to how fast can you boil water, and that's really no surprise because there is a tremendous amount of energy coming out of that hole directed at the bottom of that pot. Now, as far as which one is better, I don't think you can really say because each technique really shines in its own way, in its own situation. So there you have it, 2 very useful but underutilized fire techniques to keep in your toolbox. Next time you're out in the woods, give one a try and let me know how it works out. We'll see you guys on the next one. Eggs a bit runny.